If you somehow haven't heard of the best game mode in Fortnite, Reload is a low-stakes, high-action mini battle royale with respawns on and a smaller map. And with the addition of the Slurp Rush update, we now have 3 major maps to choose from. The new map, also called Slurp Rush, is a stylistic departure from its predecessors since it's themed around Chapter 2 locations and art direction, and I love it! It's very reminiscent of Chapter 2 Remix in particular, with some really solid location choices. Slurpy Swamp is the central POI this time, and it's just as slurpy and just as swamp as ever before. I've always been a firm believer that this POI is super iconic and underrated, and it's nice to see it get its shield-based gelatin desserts. The other 2 full POIs are Steamy Stacks and Dirty Docks. Steamy Stacks is an obvious choice. The cooling towers are a big part of Chapter 2's skyline, and it's a really iconic landmark. But I find the addition of Dirty Docks to be a really interesting choice, especially considering the existence of Dusty Docks on the Venture map. Still, I enjoy the low-key industrial theme that they've got going on with the POIs here, contrasting with a lot of the map being mountainous pine forests and waterlogged swamps. Logjam logging is pretty much just the logjam landmark from Chapter 2, but there are a few extra spots across the map that feature the logjam branding, which gives it a very cohesive feeling, much like the original Chapter 2 island. It seems they put a lot of time into making the map feel very interconnected and realistic, and I like that. Fort Crumpet is here, which is awesome for me personally, considering its British rep, and it's also just a neat landmark, so it's cool to see it be upgraded into a named location. Boomin' Base is an original location based on the scattered Ego outposts from Chapter 2 Season 1. The layout seems to be brand new, but you'll probably recognize a lot of the building designs, so it's certainly a familiar but fresh spot to drop. Lockdown Lighthouse is another pretty easy pick. The Lockie's Lighthouse was definitely another iconic part of Chapter 2's skyline, and the lockdown part of the name is a surprising reference to a certain real-world event that enveloped more of half of Chapter 2's original run. However, the POI itself isn't all that interesting. In fact, I think it would be better suited as an unnamed landmark. But that's 2020 vision. And finally, there's Stilt Town, which for me is the most surprising choice of inclusion for this map. I would have at least expected Wood Shanty, but no, Stilt Town. Sure. The rest of the map is equally as well designed. Slurpy Swamp itself has gotten a little extension. There's a smaller logjam dockyard, a ton of smaller buildings from Chapter 2 littered around, and even Spawn Island is beautifully designed and unique. They actually saved maybe the coolest custom building on this whole map for Spawn Island of all places. The loot pool has also been refreshed for Slurp Rush. That's not really a shocking thing. Reload's loot pool generally does get overhauled every couple of months, but this iteration is mostly a mixed bag. There's some super solid stuff here that we've seen in Reload before that feels right at home, like the Hammer Assault Rifle and Maven Shotgun, or sorry, Marvin Shotgun, according to this Instagram commenter I saw. But then there's also the Antichrist. Yup, the Mammoth Pistol is back in Reload. Again. The Mammoth is fun to use, but it also takes damn near no skill to snipe someone's health out completely, and it's been in Reload way too much. Give it a rest. And to the Mammoth Pistol Nation out there, you know the hand cannon exists, right? Literally the same gun, but takes more skill and is better balanced overall. If you're nothing without the Mammoth Pistol, then you don't deserve to have it. The Dragon's Breath Shotgun is here too, a super deep cut that I really appreciate. However, it no longer spreads fire, which feels like an unnecessary debuff. But hey, here's the Red Eye Assault Rifle. My favorite red dot rifle finally sees its way into Reload, and it's a super balanced pairing for the Hammer AR too. Nice. Oh, and Reload now has OG damage numbers. That's a pretty minor visual change that I bet you didn't even notice before I pointed it out, but it's one that I can definitely appreciate nonetheless. When Slurp Rush was about to release, it was reported that the biggest meta shakeup of all would be the addition of joyride vehicles on the new map. Yup, sedans, big rigs, pickups, whiplashes, even the Chapter 2 Remix lowriders would be here. This would be a very interesting addition, considering one of Reload's original selling points was that it had no vehicles. Still, I'm open to the concept of Reload having balanced vehicles, and I'd be interested to see how it plays. But it doesn't matter, because while they are technically here, they're all booted. And I wonder, why? You could just use prop cars and they'd give more mats and not randomly cause server lag by exploding. Except wait, there are some prop cars in sections of the map. It's so inconsistent, I don't get it. No boats either. Weird considering half of the map is water. Speaking of water, as is the nature of Slurpy Swamp, a lot of the water around here will actually heal you if you chill in it for a bit. And there are a ton of shield kegs and tankers littered across the map too. So there's really no shortage of ways to quickly gain back some health or shields on this map. The water isn't deep enough to actually swim in though. Again, big selling point of Chapter 2, little bit strange. The Slurp Rush update is super solid overall. The map itself is definitely more of a derivative mashup like Venture compared to the wider variety of original locations featured on Oasis, but I don't really mind that much, especially when it's my beloved Chapter 2 being derived from. While I still think Oasis is the best Reload map to date, Slurp Rush is a very solid experience all around. Slurp Rush was also featured as the base for the Fortnite Pro-Am 2025. This huge event saw content creators and pro players teaming up to compete for a $500,000 prize pool. And it was kind of a disaster. The power shut off during Game 4 and all of the streams went down for 20 minutes. Ali got absolutely bullied and rage quit halfway through.
Like, what the fuck is this? This is stupid! Let me change my skin so people stop farming me, bro!
And to the surprise of absolutely nobody, Peterbot won. But overall, it was a really entertaining watch. I don't usually watch competitive live, but I decided to tune in this time with my friends, and we had a lot of fun. Epic seems to be letting the Reload team slowly cook up an absolute storm, and the current rate of a brand new map every 4 or so months with loot pool updates in the meanwhile is very sustainable and healthy for the mode overall, which remains one of the most consistently enjoyable modes in the entire game. I do wish some of the player base would seek employment, but that's not their fault. So yeah, once again, Epic cooked. Good job, guys. Please vault the mammoth pistol.